Oh, where did Gabrielle go? She was on.
There
Oh,
she
there
is.
she is. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the call to order. Meeting is starting at 6:31, Resource Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, March 13th, 2023. I need a timekeeper. Kim was supposed to be the timekeeper. Will, would you like to be the timekeeper since might be your last official function?
Gladly, I will.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Oh, there's Diane. I think we're all here. Okay. I guess, Chad, there's no one in the meeting room from the public. Okay, thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of the draft minutes from February 13, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 13, 2023?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Open for discussion.
Sorry, I'm joining late. I don't know if Zoom is acting up or if it's my computer, but I had a heck of a time joining you all. Are we talking about the minutes?
Yeah, we just got to them. Yeah, we're up for discussion now.
That's what I thought. I have a couple of things on 5C. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Jessica requested, let's see, what does it say? Requested the recycling event rather than she's excited about it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Which one was it, Diane? 5C?
5C. It says, Principal Jessica excited to start up a recycling program. And actually, I think she requested that they start up a recycling program.
So that one, I actually went back through that item. That's at least the way it was presented in the meeting. I don't know if the language is super important, but that's how it was stated, I'm pretty sure. I can go back and triple check if you'd like me to.
No, I just thought Chris said that she requested it.
I wasn't at the last meeting.
No, so Kim was presenting on that.
Kim was
item,
presenting.
Chris
I mean,
wasn't
she
there.
is.
Okay,
You know,
well, if you
she is
checked it.
excited. We did go actually meet her in person, so she was excited to start a recycling program there at her new school where she's principal. So I think that's okay.
Okay, then on 5D, Ron, Chris, and Diane met to discuss lightening the chair's work as well as the rest of the sentence. You have Ron, Chris, and Diane met recently to spell out and streamline the role. And I'm suggesting that it say Ron, Chris, and Diane.
Yep, I was going for being concise there, but if you'd prefer that I extend that, I can do that as well.
Actually, I don't think it's any more words. It's just different words.
Okay, I'll look at that.
And then somewhere on here with the salt discussion, the discussion about the salt reduction, I'm not seeing that in here, but I had to follow up with Ben to find out exactly what we decided. But I think, as Ben told me, we decided to move forward with the ordinance reducing salt on sidewalks and hold off on parking lots and work on that later.
Did we cover that in February? I know we talked about it in January, but Ben, do you recall?
We did cover that.
Oh, sorry, you're muted, Ben.
Actually, I'm not.
It's tough to recall that. I know we've discussed it at a few different meetings, so but the particulars of the last time we discussed it, I really just don't recall.
I keep pretty detailed notes. I guess there was a short update on it, but it wasn't anything significant based on my notes. I think the main discussion happened in January.
I think that's what I remember too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We actually did a follow-up because Ben and I talked and he talked about the ordinance that he drafted. So we did discuss this. I remember very clearly that we discussed this last month.
Yep, so just reading from the minutes there, this isn't a brief update on action items from the January 9 RCC meeting. What I've got is using draft language from Ben. Diane drafted an update for Fitchburg snow removal ordinances to include salt use standards for residents and businesses. If that doesn't correctly reflect what it was, I can change it.
What minutes were you reading from, Phil?
This is from February 13th.
Yeah,
Item five,
but
E is an echo.
Yep.
Yes, but we discussed parking, we briefly discussed parking lots and what we were going to do about them. Well, if you don't want to include it, that's fine.
I'm saying I can go back and look. Yep. I'll go check the video again and make sure that it's reflected accurately.
Any other discussion? No, if there's no further discussion, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from February 13th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The minutes approved. Next item on the agenda, new business, item 4A, Groundswell Conservancy Organic Agricultural Water Supply. Chris, do you want to introduce the team from Groundswell?
Sure. So about, I want to say a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we had Steve Whalen and Jim Welsh from Groundswell came in and talked to us about a piece of property in Fitchburg that they were developing, and they had discussed some of the plans for organic agriculture on the land and also some of the other educational opportunities. Do people on the RCC remember this discussion a while back?
Yeah, I do. I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
Okay. So just in follow-up to that, last December, I was at a Sustained Dane event and ran into Robert Pierce. He was one of the people on the panel that day, and he had just, I knew that he was involved with the farming portion of that. He's also participated at other RCC events in the past on urban agriculture. And he had mentioned to me that he was struggling with, the water that he needed to do the farming that he wanted to do. And so there's just a challenging part of that, and Robert will get into that a little bit. But it was really kind of keeping his yields down, making it very challenging for him to do the agricultural things that they want to do on the property. And he just wanted to have a little bit more discussion about it. And so I've had some follow-up conversations with Groundswell, with Angie, and then also a meeting with Robert to understand the issue a little bit in greater detail. And I thought that it would be good for them to come and just give an update, as this is a property that we're familiar with, and just kind of speak to what the challenges are that they're working through right now, and then we could go from there. I do have the maps pulled up, so I could share those potentially, if that would be helpful for Angie. I think you'll kick it off, and then Robert, maybe you can complement, and then kind of anybody from the team that wants to talk about it. We have about, I think, 20 minutes allotted for this item, so if we could do 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, somewhere in there, of discussion, and then any questions, we can ask those questions, and the Groundswell team can answer those.
Great. Okay, so I don't know how much we need a map since you're familiar with the property, but number one, I just wanted to start off by thanking you for inviting us to this meeting. We really appreciate it. And I wanted to also introduce our community director, Yimao Yang. I understand that Jim Welsh met with you back in March of 2018 and showed you the proposed plans for Paisley Swan Creek Farm, and that they were well received. So I just wanted to thank you for that. This farm is just south of Goodland Park Road. So that just kind of gives you a context for where it is and where Robert is doing his work. Just a little bit of history. Groundswell purchased that land, which is zoned exclusive agriculture, in December of 2018. And we leased the farm to Robert Neighborhood Food Solutions in July of 2019. And the reason we leased the land to Neighborhood Food Solutions was because Robert had been facing land displacement and had never had land security anywhere. So the plan was for Neighborhood Food Solutions to conduct innovative agricultural programming on the site with youth and adults, mainly African American and Latinx individuals who face significant barriers to access to land. And Robert, I don't know if you know this, Robert can probably tell you a little bit more, but he runs teen and adult programs that connect people directly with farming at Paisley Swan Creek Farm, which is the name of the farm. And he builds skills and knowledge and networks around urban agriculture and healthy food and processing and distributing produce in the Dane County area. So all good stuff. So one of the biggest problems we faced since the beginning of this effort is obtaining a permanent, sustainable, and equitable source of water for the farm. When we purchased the farm, we intended to drill a well to meet the needs of Robert and Neighborhood Food Solutions for irrigation and vegetable water wash water, but we were told that there was a code, a Fitchburg code, section 30-67A, that prohibited new well construction because we were adjacent to a new Fitchburg municipal water main. There's a 200-foot rule. If you're within that boundary, you have to use municipal water. So the fact of the matter is municipal water is costly, it's chlorinated. Robert can tell you a bit more, and we believe it's not suitable for farming. Chlorine kills beneficial organisms in the soil. And as any farmer will tell you, farmers don't use municipal water. As a rule, they use well water. So because of the unsuitability of the municipal water and the costs involved, my predecessor, Jim Welsh, in 2021, requested a waiver from the Fitchburg Department of Public Works to allow for construction of a well. And that was informally denied. There was no written denial. So when I started in 2022, I started hearing from Robert and I realized, oh, we've got a problem. We don't have the permanent solution for water access. So I wanted to help out, and Yiwa wanted to help out. And since we hadn't received any written response from the city, we decided we'd reach out. So basically, we were put into contact with the city administrator and requested some specific reasons for why we were denied a waiver to construct a well. And then we prepared some responses and sent them off in August. And then we had some more discussions and basically addressed the concerns that the city had posed. And one of the biggest concerns is, was that, is this a hardship for you? And one of the things that makes this a real hardship is the cost to install a permanent water hookup to a municipal source had increased from $38,000 in 2021 to between $70,000 and $100,000 in 2022, depending upon the hookup. And I just want to stop there and let that sink in, because $70,000 to $100,000 for a permanent water hookup with a potential of $10,000 to $15,000 in annual water costs is a lot of money, especially for two small not-for-profits. So we just kind of gasped and we're like, oh my gosh, this is really a lot for us to have to handle. So so basically we were talking with the city. They said we had satisfied every issue and every concern but one. And that was, and this is the one roadblock that we're still facing. And it's the proving that the municipal water is unsuitable for our intended use. So we know municipal water, which is chlorinated, is not generally used on agricultural land. And we made a case about how it kills beneficial organisms in the soil. But what had never been really made clear to us was the standard of proof for unsuitability. What did that mean exactly? So here we are today. We don't have a well. I think what's been most frustrating for us and for Robert is we know it's not impossible for groups like ours to receive permission from municipalities to dig wells. I know in 2021, Troy Farm, which is a smaller farm than Paisley's, made a similar case to ours to the city of Madison and had received permission, guidance, and support to dig a well. They had hooked up to municipal water, expensive, chlorinated, and the city of Madison said, we get it. Yeah, dig a well. So what I want to let you know is that we really think it's important that we work with the city of Fitchburg because we want to be a part of helping the community thrive. We're eager to work with a city that, has supported diversity, equity, inclusion. You have the first Black mayor in Wisconsin. And, we're committed to diversity, equity, inclusion. We have a farm in the village of Wanakee, Westport Farm, which is farmed by Hmong farmers and has a well and water distribution system. And I know we have, one of the reasons we have Paisley Swan Creek Farm, which is farmed by Robert Pierce, who runs a BIPOC youth and adult program for people who face barriers to equitable access to land, is because we're really committed to this work. So conclusion, I just want to hope that you understand how having a well at our Fitchburg farm helps break down barriers, and how if we all work together, we can really create spaces that benefit current and future generations. Additionally, I just want to point out that the Dane County Farmland Preservation Plan adopted by the city of Fitchburg in 2022 makes clear the importance of sustaining agricultural and local food production and businesses to our quality of life. So I just want to, number one, thank you so much for listening to us and for considering, our quest for getting Robert his well. And I really hope you'll support us in our efforts to obtain the permanent and equitable access to water for Paisley Swan Creek Farm. So I want to turn this over to Robert to have him tell you what his experience is.
Robert, I think you're muted, so you'll have to just unmute quick. There you go.
Okay. Thanks for having us here. I've been going through this for like about 4 years now, and it makes it kind of hard to run my programs that I do. One of the programs is called PEAT, stands for Program for Entrepreneur and Agricultural Training, which we take kids from all over the city that are at risk, and we teach them basically different farming techniques, and also working a small business. So we teach them spreadsheets. We added a cooking component because they need to know what the food that they're growing, that they need to eat better to eat good food than to go to McDonald's. We're trying to kill them off, that one kid at a time, getting rid of McDonald's. And it's been working for ever since 2007. We've been doing this. We take 10 kids a year, and most of these kids, well, in fact, all the kids that we've had from 2007 have all graduated from this program. And today, these young kids are all three. They are in the work system, and they've pretty much have became stellar people, young people. They're working different parts of management. Some of them have created their own different jobs or their own selves. They're entrepreneurs, and it's been working. The other program that I do is called FAIR, Farm Answer Incarceration and Release. We take returning citizens who are felons, and we teach them how to do the same thing. Yet also we give them land to, once they learn how to do this, we give them land. If they're able to make their own soil and create a small business at my farmers markets. This has been hard on the programs because the water hookup comes from the hydrant, and usually it doesn't get turned on until May, late May or either June. And when without frost, could get freeze and all these different things. I've heard it all, but we make the joke of my worms don't need the chlorine because they live in dirt, and the worms don't have teeth, so they don't need fluoride. And so so that's not doing me very much good. In fact, they kill off a bunch of my beneficials by using this stuff. I'm not able to use my high tunnel until the high tunnel was put there from a grant from USDA, which is supposed to have irrigation set up that I'm able to set this irrigation up and grow early in the spring and late in the fall. And this negates that because I don't get water until late in the season, and then they take it away before the season's over with. So it negates that part of it. So I'm having a real problem with not having water, that's accessible. And, it's just, she's already told you the hardship of the beef to have municipal water. And another thing, all the other homes around me have wells. And, and it's like, come on now, what's the problem here? I'm running a business and I'm a nonprofit also. And trying to run these businesses and try to have these programs work is kind of it's a hardship without having a water system and having to be able to take and do the things I need to do with them. So I just got myself. No, someone need to say something.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. I did want to jump in. Please finish what you were going to say, though. Okay, good. So if I may, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Thanks for bringing this to my attention. I do remember the presentation back in 2018 with the concept, and I thought it was really impressive. And I've been meaning to reach out to hear an update about it, and I regret that I haven't done that so far. So I'm really happy to hear that the programs are ongoing and are going well. And I'm unhappy to hear about this difficulty that you've had. I'm an alder on the council. I'm one of 8 alders, and alders are allowed to sponsor amendments with a co-sponsor. Since you've tried to go through the process to get the staff and the mayor to sponsor something and have had difficulty, I'd be interested in working with you to see if we can go through the process for me sponsoring an amendment as an alder. And I can work with you on that. So I can drop my information in the chat. And if you want to reach out to me, and we can discuss further about possibly working on a resolution and have it come before the council for consideration. If it has to be an exception, I think we can definitely have that public conversation and have the alders make a decision if we want to grant that exception. So I put that in the chat. I don't know if you can see that, but please reach out to me. And I'm happy to hear what the other council members have to say, or the other commissioners want to. But I just want to let you know that I'm happy to work with you on this.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Angela, I think you're muted.
I mean, I just wanted to be clear. We've really been talking mostly with the city administrator, and I don't know who the city administrator has been talking with, but basically our conversations have been really exclusively with the city administrator. So yeah, just so you know. So
yeah, I can follow up with Chad too, but if you want to reach out, I see Chad all the time. So yeah, I can get updated, and but I just want to let you know that there is another process that we can possibly run this through. To get more consideration. So I can't make any promises, but I'm happy to work with you on this to go a slightly different route.
That would be great.
Ben, who from the city is reviewing this application or making those decisions?
So it probably was Paul. I hadn't really heard too much other than what Chris had mentioned this to me previously, so I knew a little bit about it, but our interim director of public works, Paul, and then Bill before that, and then Tracy Bosson she's the utility engineer, actually city engineer now. So those would probably be the primary people involved in approving the variance.
Would it have gone before the planning and zoning department as well, or do you think just public works?
I don't know. Probably works.
Yeah, I can at least ask somebody in planning and see if it's something they're familiar with and try to get a little bit better understanding there. But yeah, they may not have seen it.
Yeah, the original waiver request went before Bill Bulkey in 2021. So that was the original one.
Okay.
So
that's when he was serving as director of public works.
Yeah.
Ben,
I'm just concerned that the applicant has to provide the burden of proof that the chlorinated water is harmful to bacteria in the soil and things, or not harmful to the bacteria in soils. So what kind of proof do you need or the city needs to demonstrate that it's not, that it is harmful? So Do they have to provide scientific evidence, professional papers, witnesses, or expert witnesses?
That's a good question. It's not really, I mean, it's vague. So
I know.
I think
Yeah.
that's been our problem. It's vague. Yeah.
Diane, you
Ben,
got
have you
something?
had any time to research the reasons why, even if it was informally, why this variance was not granted? And I have a two-part question. Does the city really want to use municipal water for farming? I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me that we'd want to tap that rather than let them use a well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, that's a little bit outside my area of expertise. I don't know why I'm sure the reason why the variance wasn't granted was, I mean, I think as Angela had pointed out, it was the city's feeling at the time that so I think there's 5 conditions you basically have to meet in order to get the variance. And it sounds like the city did not feel that the variance for, you know, proving that the water was not suitable for the intended use. It sounds like that was kind of the one thing requirement that wasn't met.
That was in our recent, we kind of wrote responses to the city's concerns after the original waiver request. And in our discussions with the city administrator, he said that this was verbal, he said that we'd satisfied everything but the one condition, which you just stated, the unsuitability of water for the intended use.
Mhm.
Well, again, I can't imagine that the city wants farmers to use municipal water on their crops.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
What's the size of the area that you're farming again, Robert? How many acres?
There's about 14 to 15 acres that I can put in production, but the site's 38 acres, wetland included with all of that, but it's about 14 to 15 tillable.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I kind of pushed this on the agenda for this month, knowing that we didn't have a meeting next month. Wanted to talk about this, you know, knowing that we're coming up on another growing season starting in May. So like, I felt like if we waited until May, you know, then, you know, it could be passing us by. So I just wanted to get RCC's input and questions and awareness of the challenge that, you know, Groundswell and Robert have been facing on this. And, you know, but I think, you know, it is a good program for these nonprofits and, you know, good local farm to table produce. You know, I know that there's local opportunities. I think some of this food can make its way into Madison markets, certainly farmers markets. This food also makes its way, I think, to Willie Street Co-op. Is that correct, Robert?
Regent Street Co-op,
Right.
St. Vincent de Paul, Second Harvest.
Okay.
We take care of all of them.
Yeah. And I think even a new African grocery store is a possibility as well in the near
Working
future.
on it.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's safe to say that, you know, additional, you know, having access to water, you know, will increase yields. I think, you know, you've been limited with water access, you know, until a certain point in May, and, you know, all the other things that you've had to deal with has probably kept your yields down from where they could be, correct?
Very, very much. I mean, I make my own soil, and so there's it has to stay has a certain amount of moisture within that to get the chemical changes of the soil heating up to 160 degrees. And without, you know, I've been at the mercy of God. So when it rains, then I can turn it and be able to, you know, to make this chemical change happen. And it's pretty frustrating that, you know, I use these beds to make, that's what I grow out of the food on top of the soil, because the soil has been used for 30, 40 years with different types of chemicals in it. So I'm working on top of that soil with the soil that I make.
Okay.
So, Robert, speaking on that process, have you observed that you're unable to accomplish the soil formation that you need for the business that you're trying to run by leveraging municipal water?
Well, yes, and I've had to not make as much because there's no sense in trying to do that if you can't take care of it, and so that's one of the things that have hindered because the people that my clients that I work with, I give them some of the soil so they were able to work with it. Plus, I try to teach them how to use it and to make it. And without having the water, it's kind of frustrating. They can only get a certain part of that, and it's like I'm telling them, that this is what you need, but it's not there for them to get. And then when we do get the water, it's like it's 2 months into. They start at the end of March in April, so they're already 2 months into it before we even get water. So it's like it's kind of hard to to teach and show them how to make soil without that component having the water and the moisture for that we need in it. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does. I'm a little I'm astounded to hear that the evidence that you're presenting in terms of the hardship that you're facing as a business and the limitations put on you by not only chlorinated water, but the calendar year that you're being left with, that wasn't enough evidence to justify, that it's not suitable. So I guess it's just interesting to hear these anecdotes. When you want to talk about expert evidence, I mean, you clearly, this process, the chemistry of it. You're trying to run a business and you don't even have the resources you need, much less the ideal resources. So I think just wanted to get that clarified in this, discussion, and we'll certainly be talking with Gabriella about how we can try and move this forward.
Well, basically, this has been going on, like I said, for 4 years, and I just at this point in time, beginning of the year, I just said that I would get into this myself with Groundswell, that I would want to be at these different conversations at the table because I've been cut out of that, and basically because we've never been able to get type of an audience. So I'm really grateful that you guys accepted this and let us come and talk to you guys.
Okay.
Ben, does the Director of Public Works have the authority to make a variance in this or an exception in this situation, or does that have to go to the city administrator? Does it have to go to the council? What's the process?
I'm not quite sure. It would at least have to go through the Director of Public Works. Yeah, but if not the city administrator.
I would think if you're talking about a variance, you're probably talking about zoning concerns. That's why I asked about the planning department. Is I would think this would go to zoning board of appeals. That they would maybe not the only body to hear it, but I would think that the board of appeals would be one of the primary ones that's dealing with variances to code.
So what would be the most expedient course to get this done?
I think I'm gonna touch base with. I'm gonna reach out to Chad and figure out the history. And if Angela and Robert, did you note my email address in the comments?
Yeah.
Okay, great. If you would reach out to me maybe tonight, just so we have our contact information and I can do some follow-up before, I don't know enough about where this needs to go or what the process is, but I'm happy to do some of that background knowledge and try to push this forward. But I can talk to Chad. I'll see him tomorrow night.
I think that's the answer. That's probably the most expedient just for Gabriella to look into it. I don't think we'll come up with the answer tonight, but I'm pretty confident that Gabriella can figure it out quickly.
Maybe I don't know if we can get it done. Maybe the soonest we could probably get it done would maybe be the end of April, like the second meeting in April. That would be the very soonest I would imagine it would be possible, but I see no reason why we can't just start working towards that now. And I'm happy to work on it as fast as it's possible, but I have a lot to learn too in terms of how this process goes. So let's touch base and we'll take it one step at a time, but I'm happy to help you And I appreciate you coming out today and bringing it up, because I'm really glad that we're aware of this. And thanks, Chris, for bringing them to us today so we could all be on the same page.
Yeah, thank you. And Gabrielle, thank you, and Phil, for following up with this. It's very important. To me, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, agreed.
I
I echo all that.
It needs to get done. So.
Yi Mo Yang, community director. I want to make a comment, and that is that being able to dig a well at the farm means that we can put in a system, underground piping system, where Robert would have access to water all year round. And he would be able to grow all year round, and not just having water from May to like October, but having 12 months a year, so that he could be producing in the high tunnels. And he would be able to really take advantage of the grant that he got from the USDA to put in the high tunnel, and to do be ahead of the game, and also be able to provide the vegetables and contract with folks that are wanting to buy from him. Because some of the other issue is that he can't sign those contracts with buyers if he knows that he does not have access to water to make it happen. And so last year, Robert had a contract, I forgot who it was with, but he wasn't able to produce it, the products in time for them, because it was I think we had a really dry beginning of the season. By the time we got water hookup through the hydrant, it was mid-May. And so I just want to put that out there for you all.
Okay.
Right.
I don't see a downside to this. And if we could we put this on a future agenda like April or May as a follow-up to see?
Yeah, we'll definitely have it on the May agenda.
That's right.
Yeah, Gabrielle, we might want to also assess why we would zone something agriculture in the city and put this as a stipulation on it, right? We're restricting agricultural use for that land, even though that's what it's zoned for, if we're requiring them to use municipal water. So I mean, this exemption, I want to see this done as quickly as possible, but I think we also need to have a conversation around, like, why is that condition even there, right? We need to understand that keeping that business from being tenable on that land, then it shouldn't be zoned that way, right? Or, I want to see it go the other way, but it feels like a conundrum to me.
Yeah, and I hate that how long this has gone on is just, I don't know what happened here, but there's obviously something that's gone off the rails, because it's wild that you guys have been dealing with this for so long.
Yeah, thank you for your persistence. I mean, I apologize that it's been necessary, but thank you for being here and for telling us this stuff, and for your persistence on this.
Yeah, I can try to figure out what went awry here, and I can certainly follow. I can include it as part of my council update too at a future meeting when I have an update. But yeah, I'd be happy to jump on this as soon as I can. I'm gonna shoot an email to Chair Brecklin right now. So
I will say that I think that Groundswell has the funds in place for a well, correct? If we can get it approved, you have that, and you've had that set aside for a while.
Yeah.
So okay.
Okay.
So funding's not an issue on it either. So I think everything's been said that needs to be said. Thank you so much, Groundswell, for coming.
Thank you,
Robert. Really appreciate you guys coming in and sharing what's going on, and we'll take some actions and stay in touch.
Well,
Thank you so much. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Have a great evening.
All right.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention, Chris. I mean, I just can't believe they're still dealing with it, particularly when farmers next to them have wells. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, it's apparent from my couple meetings with Robert that he's been very frustrated, and
just unnecessary red tape.
Thanks for letting me squeeze that into the front end
Oh,
of this
yeah,
meeting.
no
I know we
problem.
have a lot to get through, and we'll be on a pace to continue, but I thought that was important that we talked about.
No, I think that's very important. So,
and it's a good lesson for the anyone that's watching, is like, if you're having an issue with something in the city, bringing it to a commission member that serves on a committee, bringing it to an alder, bring it awareness to that so that we can do some research, makes a huge difference, because city staff has a lot going on, and we're here as community members to advocate for people in the community trying to do things. So always feel free to reach out and bring it to people that are working on committees and the elected officials, so that we can do some advocacy on your behalf.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to, how are we doing with time, Will?
Not good, but I think we're gonna get there. We've got
Okay.
10 minutes.
Well, we got 4 resolutions to go through, so let's start on those. The first one is item 4B on the new business, resolution R 44-23, adopting the 2022 NR 2016 permit annual report. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I make that motion.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, Chris seconds. Open for discussion.
Ben, is there anything you want to draw to our attention?
I don't know if there's anything in particular. If you're familiar with these annual reports, maybe you've seen them last year. It just goes into a little about, how many inspections we did, the illicit discharge program, some information about education and outreach, any new ponds or stormwater facilities that were added to the city. It goes into a little bit about salt usage for each month. And then, that's kind of the big piece of it. Is there anything?
Any major outliers for this year that strike you, Ben?
I'll just say one thing that, was good to see this year. We kind of were a little bit more aggressive, I guess, with getting some reminder letters out about private stormwater facilities, getting people to have their inspections completed. So we got 18 new inspections from facilities that weren't previously inspected. So that was, I guess, good to see.
Hey, Ben, I did have one thing on page 5 of 34 or page 11 of the PDF. There needs to be a correct. It says first name is Mark, last name Ben Schulte.
Yeah, I've heard that one now a few times.
Okay. And also, I was just surprised at the amount of salt that the city puts down in a season, 750 something tons, which equals 1.4 million pounds of salt used. It's just unbelievable. I don't know what's typically used for a municipality our size, but just seems like a lot of salt. And where's all that salt go? It's going to go back into the soil and into our waterway. So I understand the safety concerns and things like that, but just lots of salt. And I'm sure this year it's going to be even worse. We've had a protracted winter season.
Yeah, and one thing, it doesn't call out, but it would be interesting to see. Just, total amount of salt doesn't really tell me much, but total amount of salt per lane mile, now that'd be a little bit more interesting. I think you could kind of, potentially be able to compare that to, I don't know, see what other municipalities are doing. All this report is public for any MS4 municipality, so you could kind of see, I guess, and see how Fitchburg is stacking up compared to others. I mean, now of course you'd have to normalize for like rainfall and or snowfall. It would probably be a lot more difficult of a task than I first thought. But
well, we have 268 miles, right? So could you calculate that from that? 268 miles that are treated.
We could also compare it to like Oregon or Verona or Madison. They've got the same weather conditions we're dealing with.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That would probably be an interesting exercise.
Would that be an
nothing
action
else
item?
to do?
Well, that would be easy enough.
Yeah.
Or a great summer intern project.
So what happens on this report? Does anybody ever fail when they send this in? Do they not get their permit renewed?
I mean, I suppose it could happen if someone didn't submit all of the required things, like they just, I don't know, didn't keep track of how much salt they used or, whatever. I'm sure there would be some kind of a penalty, at least.
Just curious. Thanks.
I noticed there were 3, civil penalties. What was the result of those? I mean, are they fined or? This was on page 17.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, those were citations for erosion control noncompliance. So there weren't too many this year, a few stop work orders, a few citations.
So when you issue a stop work order, do things get resolved and they can continue working on those projects, or are they permanently stopped?
It's basically they have to stop until they meet whatever or correct any deficiencies that we've had them stop for. So there's a site that just started without a permit, so gave them a stop work order, wait until they get their permit, get all their silt fence erosion control measures up, and then they'd be free to work.
Okay.
Ben, on the waterway cleanup, both the Chapel Valley ponds I cleaned those twice last year.
Okay.
I don't know if that's significant enough to mention, but when we get the salt reduction ordinance passed, is that going to show up on here too?
I would mention it, yeah. So assuming that happens 2023, it would be in the report that we would be talking about next year. That
Okay.
That's kind of the meat and potatoes.
Any more discussion? Okay, I'll make a motion let's take a vote on approving the resolution. All in favor of approving resolution R-44-23, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. So approved. Let's move on to item 4C, resolution R-61-23, approving change order with AE2S for the contract for services for the Seminole Glen Stormwater Study. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Second, okay, open for discussion. Ben, you want to just give a little quick overview?
Yeah, so this was really just a very mild change of scope. So there were originally 3 public meetings scheduled. It's being reduced to 2, and then basically just having them model some more scenarios, and further down Schumann, since we'll be needing that information anyways for when the Schumann Drive CIP project goes. There's no cost difference. I was surprised that this had to be an item, but it is a change order, so here it is. But that's really all there is to it.
And can you explain on page 49 of the PDF, the strike throughs that are there? Because that seems like a little bit more than, that seems like a larger change. Or what's the purpose for striking that out? We're talking about underground filtration and above ground infiltration.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
And then they eliminated concept 3 altogether.
I believe those were the concepts that we've already modeled, and basically that we don't really need to look into anymore. I think they've been kind of already looked at and crossed off the list.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any more discussion? Okay, let's take a vote on the resolution. All in favor of approving resolution R-61-23, approving a change order, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All those opposed, say nay. Resolution approved. Item 4D, resolution R-55-23, authorizing approval of 2023 stormwater maintenance dredging bid. Your motion to approve this resolution?
I'll move to
I
approve
move
it.
Second.
Okay. Open for discussion. Ben, any quick intro on this one again?
Yep, so we had advertised this about a month ago. Speedway was the low bidder. The project is going to be dredging of 3 ponds: Red Arrow Pond, Gunflint Trail Pond, and then a partial dredging of Chapel Valley Pond. Staff went out and did some survey this winter just to check some sediment depth and pond depths. So really you want to have a water depth of at least 3.5 feet. And that's, just so the particles can settle and then not get disturbed when there's more rain. So it's kind of that 3.5 feet minimum. And when it's less than that, you would want to look at dredging. So those 3 ponds, in particular Gunflint and Red Arrow, were very shallow. So we'll be removing all the sediment. Gunflint, in particular, there'll be a lot of sediment removed from, and then the Chapel Valley West Pond is just a partial dredging. So it'll be dredging kind of just the western third of the pond, and that's where there's just some built up debris. You can even see cattails growing in there now. It's built up so much. So it's those 3 projects. They'll be taking place this year at various times. We didn't really give the contractor a set time period in hopes of getting some better prices. I think we just stipulated that, once they start, they've got, X number of weeks to finish. So look to see those ponds getting dug out at some point this year.
Ben, where does the dredge spoils go to?
So they're going to do some sediment sampling and testing just to see if there's any concerns with contaminants in the sediment. It's really nice if it can be just land applied and it doesn't have to be hauled off. That's probably not going to be an option just with where these ponds are. Maybe Gunflint we could waste a little bit, but that'll depend on the sediment test results. And if it, it likely will just have to go to a landfill.
I mean, could we mix it with our composting operations or reuse it there?
I don't think we would want that.
So the hauling is included in this cost, and if it doesn't have to be hauled, then they would bill us less?
Yeah, so it's like a per cubic yard.
Okay.
But I'm assuming it's all hauled off.
Can you also explain how you tested the depth?
Well, we did a couple things. We rented a little mini boat, like an RC boat that has, it's not true bathymetry where it's like sonaring the bottom of the pond, but it basically shoots out a point where it picks up an elevation and it gives you the surface of the pond based on a bunch of points. That didn't work super great. It kept getting stuck in some weeds. So we waited till the ponds froze and drilled holes and the old-fashioned method and just stuck a
Probing.
yeah, a big beam down and measured. So yeah, nothing too sophisticated.
All right, thank Gabriella. Go ahead.
Are you concerned about having only one bid? Obviously the price is fairly good. Do we know about this contractor?
Yeah, they're doing Cyene, they're doing East Sherrill. They've done quite a bit of work in the city. Yeah, I did follow up with all of the contractors. So there were several plan holders. And from what I heard from them, there's just a lot of opportunities out right now. I think the only reason it even made sense for Speedway is because they have equipment in Fitchburg for other jobs. So that kind of saves them money on, mobilizing. Just they're already here, but that was interesting.
Good.
Thank you, Ben. Any other discussion? If not, let's take a vote to approve resolution R-55-23. All in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Resolution approved. Moving on to 4E, resolution R-67-23, approving 2023 through 2025 stormwater utility vegetation management program contract. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
I second.
9 seconds, open for discussion. Ben, get another short intro.
Yep. So this contract includes vegetation management services for 23, 24, 25 for several, maybe 18 stormwater facilities, or 26 stormwater facilities rather. And then all of the stormwater facilities at the Terra Vesta development. So basically, we received 4 proposals from some qualified contractors. We ended up choosing Heartland. Their initial proposal was much less than what we received from some other vendors, and Heartland has done very quality work in the city. So we felt comfortable with them, and with that price, we were able to work in all of the Terra Vesta development vegetation, which is quite a bit. There's the area surrounding the wetland by Larson Road. There's a bunch of the terrace infiltration and median infiltration areas. So they'll be managing all of those for the next 3 years.
Ben, did the other 3 contractors not include Terra Vesta vegetation management in their proposals?
None of them did originally. I did not intend to have that be part of this contract. My intent was that Heartland would basically get that contract, just because they've done a very good job working for the developer. They've been doing the vegetation management for Terra Vesta during the development or during a warranty period. And they're very familiar with the plants that are out there, the kind of adaptive management that they've been doing out there. So it just kind of worked out that you could have those both in the same contract, with Heartland being the contractor.
Okay. Yes,
I
Diane, sorry.
have a couple things. I want the city to emphasize with them that whatever treatment they use, burning or mowing or whatever, they need to avoid nesting seasons. We talked about that. We had the same conversation last year with your predecessor. Well, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was 2 years ago, but with your predecessor, Ben. And also the pesticides that they use, or whatever they want to call them, they need to make sure that they keep them out of the ponds and the streams. So that you've covered that with them, and they're aware of that?
Yeah, since I don't know. We don't have an aquatic herbicide license. So yeah, that would be, I think we'd get in some trouble if we were applying herbicides in the waterways. But yeah, that's not the intent of this contract.
Well, you just don't want it to run off into the waterway if it's being applied.
Sure.
So yeah.
So you've covered that with them, or you'll emphasize that with that, the importance of that?
Yeah, we'll touch on that for sure. And well, and actually with that, particularly the nesting, I think I was doing some research into it, and it looks like there's some decent success with basically just having someone walk through beforehand that knows what they're looking for and knows what to look at, and kind of clear the area out, or mark something if there's issues, or someone that actually knows what these nests to look like and whatnot. So I think there's a way we can do the burns, and make sure that we're not causing that kind of destruction.
Good, thank you.
Gabriella, do you have something?
Yeah, so a couple questions. The first is, obviously, the resolution even says that this can take 3 to 5 years to establish it. I guess it depends probably on how it goes. This is obviously a 3-year contract. What happens at the end of year 3? Do we evaluate and decide if we need to extend for certain areas?
Well, I think we certainly would want to continue management at all of these areas, but at that point, I think the management will be much simpler. Hopefully it needs less weeding once it's more established. That's the idea. That's why they say established native areas are cheaper to maintain than turf grass. So I think that would be the expectation as we see just decreased effort needed to maintain these areas after this kind of initial period. But I think it's very, very important to stress that if you don't do anything for a couple of years, then it doesn't take long for the wild parsnips of the world to overtake.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, and do we have a contract for? I guess I just don't know how that works. Do we have a contract for somebody, or do we do that internally, or is there some sort of contract for managing the current native vegetation spaces we have to make sure that they're in good shape?
Yeah, so there's Anna Healy has contracts out with some contractors, Field and Stream being one of them. The stormwater utility is also using Field and Stream for a couple of their facilities. Harlan Hills being one of them, which I think has looked really great towards the end of last year. They're also doing Burn Pond, Hillside Heights, Renaissance, and Ashbourne Pond. So there are several that are being managed by an ecological services company.
Great. And then I guess that leads into my other question was, I was wondering how much Anna Healy is involved with a contract like this. Does she get some input into the type of vegetation that they include?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, Anna knows a lot more about this kind of stuff than I do. Certainly that's her area of expertise. If she recommended a different vegetation, then I would be all ears. I think we feel pretty comfortable with the vegetation mixes that we use from Agricol in the city spec. They're great mixes. They look good. They've got a nice mix of grasses and forbs, wildflowers, but certainly would be willing to listen to anything that Anna might recommend. And she was somewhat involved in this process too. Obviously, I wanted her opinion, especially when it comes to the prescribed burning and some of those things which aren't typically in my purview.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, and obviously it sounds like you've looped her in, but it would be great to keep her involved in the process just so she can, have that overarching view of the city ecosystem. So thanks,
Gabriella. All right, any more further discussion? If not, let's take it up for a vote. All in favor of approving resolution R-67-23, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Nope. No opposed. Resolution approved. All right, item 4F on the agenda for you, Phil. No mo May.
Yep. Apologies that the memo in the packet was a little bit cut off. I intended to complete the narrative in there and kind of ran out of time. I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but just as kind of an update, I've looked more into No Mo May and what it would take to get it officially recognized, supported in Fitchburg. Spoken with the city administrator, with Chad, and he's checking with legal at the moment. So the big question is, we do have a lawn maintenance ordinance, and we're trying to figure out, we don't really have time to write an entirely new ordinance or an exception to that ordinance to put into the codes. So for this year, we're looking to see whether council could in some way pass a resolution that would offer, let's say, a temporary exception to the ordinance just for the month of May if individuals were to register with the city to participate in this. It's kind of a pilot program. Depending on what we learn from legal, I may write a resolution to put in front of council, and we'll look to get people to register and officially participate in No Mow May this year. If that's not possible, I'll do some more heavy education, really promote native plantings, native lawns. We do have options for that right now in codes and ordinances that you can apply with building inspection. You can apply with the planning and zoning department to get plans to put more native plantings in your yard, and then those are exempt from the lawn maintenance ordinance. And then possibly look at actually changing ordinances next year. Got kind of caught up with the sustainability plan RFP stuff this January, so didn't get the time into it early enough to look into an ordinance change for 2023. But that's just kind of where things are. It's a pretty brief update on where we're at the moment. Diane?
Is it possible to just have council vote to have the, I think this is administered by the building inspection department if they get a complaint about a yard. So is it possible for council to just vote to suspend that for the month of May? Suspend any?
I think that would require an ordinance change. Because I think, because we have an ordinance that is binding. And so to vote to say we're just going to ignore complaints about this ordinance, I don't know. Gabriella, what do you think?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that question, but
so that's why we're looking. Sorry.
Other Wisconsin municipalities have tackled this, and they found some way. I assume a lot of them have ordinances related to this, so there has to be a way around it.
I think other municipalities have changed ordinances. I will check with Sun Prairie. I know that Scott worked on something last year, and I'll see if they did an ordinance change or something else. This is why Chad is checking with legal at the moment. Is we don't want to take a step that that would get us into trouble. I mean, the reality of the situation is because the ordinance is kind of enforced on a complaint basis. You know, I have neighbors in my neighborhood that really don't mow until June. It's fine. If their neighbors have a problem, they speak with them, or they could register a complaint with the city. They'd get a letter from building maintenance, and they'd have a couple weeks to ameliorate the situation. By then it's probably June 1st anyway. But in terms of officially promoting this on a citywide basis, that changes it. And yeah, as long as that ordinance is still in effect, legally speaking, then I just don't want to step over the line from an official city channel promoting it. So that's why we're going to legal. And yeah, I can check with Sun Prairie as well.
I see one.
Phil, if for some reason this gets stalled, we're not making progress in April, I'm very happy to sponsor this resolution. So let me know.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. And I will say, editorializing a little bit, getting into my putting on my environmental educator hat. No Mow May is great. It's really easy to remember. It's getting a lot of press. It really brings a lot of attention to early season pollinators and the importance of pollinators in our food systems, in ecosystems. Really, if we're thinking about impactful things that we can do to help pollinators, No Mow May is not it. It's really cool. It is. The majority of weeds that pop up in lawns are not native. We get a lot of honeybees that come to clover and dandelions. Honeybees are not native. There are native bees that really prefer native flowers that would bloom that early. So things like pussy willow and prairie willow are early flowering plants that actually do benefit more native invertebrates that are going to help to sustain native birds that feed on them and things like that. And so what I would prefer doing, and I'm of course going to look into No Mow May, and if we can promote this, we will. I would like to spend more of my time promoting that people look into native plantings and landscaping, because I really think that's the bigger bang for our buck. That's a more impactful thing, is to encourage people to maybe shift away from the the bright, shiny, introduced landscaping, flowers and trees that, you know, may look really attractive, but they're not sustaining local ecosystems in a way that things like native bush honeysuckle and pussy willow and the native crab apples are. And so it's a little bit of a shift, and it doesn't have a catchy name, which is, it makes it a little bit tougher to get uptake. But that's sort of the short term, long term where I want my focus to be. Is that short term no-mow is, you know, that's got the attention right now, and it seems silly to not take advantage of that and try to build off of it. But then I really want to springboard off of that into something that I think is going to be more impactful over the long term. Diane, yeah.
I just want to mention, if you decide to do this on a, people register to participate, I think it's going to be difficult for the people who don't register but also don't mow. Are they going to get a citation? I mean, I think that's
so what would happen then, the reason for the registering is that if there's a complaint, we would say, hey, we understand that this is a concern. This individual has registered to participate in this. So if you register, you get an exception. And if there's a complaint, we will tell the person, you know, they've signed something, they agree that by such and such weekend in June, they will mow. If you're not registered and you get a complaint, we probably issue a citation.
See, that seems like almost a double standard.
That would be a concern to look into. In terms of the spirit of it, the reason would be that is somebody participating because they want to take part in this, or do they actually have a really, do they spray their lawn and they don't actually have any weeds, but they just didn't want to mow for the month of May, so they're taking advantage of this. You know, that's, it sounds a little silly and maybe it wouldn't happen, but it's that kind of a thing that we want to make sure that people who are doing this intentionally are also following a process that we set out to make sure that they can do it intentionally in the way that we intend. And yeah, we'd like to avoid putting anybody into a situation where they feel trapped by it. You know, we'd also look to try to provide ways for folks who are participating to educate their neighbors, whether it's putting signs in their yard or giving them talking points to discuss with neighbors if they bring it up to them. But what we don't want to do is, if the ordinance is not suspended citywide, if we're doing it as a pilot program and you have to register to participate, we don't want it to just become open season, Wild West kind of a thing where it just enables people to decide they don't. You know, for our purposes, if they're not mowing and clover's growing and, you know, they got native clover in their lawn, it doesn't make a difference to me whether they've registered or not. It doesn't make a difference to the native bees if they've registered or not. But it's really thinking about it in terms of from a legal city perspective. If we're providing an avenue for people to participate in an exception, they have to follow that.
Yeah, I think this is the Gabriella ordinance because she wants that bee out there in that clover.
I might not be
cut your yards. I'm looking for more four-leaf clovers.
I might have a conflict of interest. I might not be able to.
Yeah,
By the way,
I wasn't watching Gabriella. Did your eyes light up when I mentioned all the clover?
Congratulations on your new record.
Yeah.
Thank you. I did want to say one more thing, Phil. I appreciate the larger context. I do think that there's kind of an overarching ordinance that we need to look at, which can include something like no mow May, but yes, like actually encouraging native vegetation in people's yards and facilitating that. And then also, we still haven't solved the gardening and people's front terrace issue that was brought up in the past that was brought up and it was tabled, but needs to be resolved. And I think all of this is, you know, it's all part of the same types of ordinances that we need to manage in order to make it.
Yeah. And I understand that there are always competing priorities for council, and this is something that is not it doesn't come with a dollar sign attached to it. And I think it can be really easy to shelve these discussions. I get that there are higher priorities, but yeah, it would be good to find a way to address these at some point. And I'm hopeful that going through the sustainability plan is also going to give us some prioritization of some of these issues that aren't as easily quantified. But if we get a plan that's approved by council, well, they've now signed on to a lot of these priorities, and we can hopefully find a way to move them a little bit farther up in the queue more quickly.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
We're about 20 minutes behind.
Okay, we'll catch up here. Thank you, Phil. All right, let's move on to old business agenda, item 5A, discuss status of dark sky lighting ordinance. Ben, first of all, I want to thank Ben for taking the effort to get this moving forward. He's really got it on a fast track now. And so I'm really excited about this being a potential ordinance that would go before the council. So thanks, Ben, for all your hard work on it. And you just want to give us an overview of where you're
Yeah.
at.
I don't know if anyone got a chance to take a gander here, but basically this would be a new article in the zoning ordinance. So it'd be basically establishing outdoor lighting standards for everywhere in the city, with the possible exception for right-of-ways, just because there's some more complexities there with traffic safety and things of that nature, where, you know, you might have to have a qualified lighting specialist, you know, have certain things so it can be a safe intersection. So I don't think right-of-way lighting will be completely included in here. And then so there really is no reference to outdoor lighting anywhere in the current ordinance, except for a few locations where there's some references to dark sky requirements in rural development, rural cluster developments, and then the smart code zoning district has some requirements relating to just basically requiring full cutoff fixtures. So this goes a little bit further. It's modeled after the dark sky organization's model ordinance, as well as what the city of Madison, the city of Middleton, Appleton, and Shorewood Hills have kind of put together. So it essentially would establish 3 lighting zones, depending on the land use. So agricultural open spaces, you know, there'd be a lot, much less threshold for light pollution compared to maybe our more urban areas, where they would be allowed to have some brighter lights. And maybe I can just share my screen here quick. Because the biggest thing to look at is probably just the tables. So these are just some standards for any kind of an open parking facility. So this, you know, think school parking lot, grocery store parking lot, any kind of open parking facility whatsoever. Depending on the level of activity, which is defined earlier, they have basically minimum, maximum, some different types of standards, basically foot candles, brightness on the parking lot. There's also some standards about light trespass. So if you're adjacent residential or open space, there'd obviously be less light trespass allowed than if you were in a commercial district. Another big thing this would introduce is basically a curfew on lighting. So within an hour, 30 minutes after close of business, lights would have to be either shut off or reduced. You know, there's some sections on building and accent lighting. Again, so anything other than parking lots, again, 3 different lighting zones. This is just a table that says when fully shielded or partially shielded fixtures are required based on how many lumens. There's a couple extra special things for like display lot or area lighting, thinking the car dealerships. This would also include designers. They would have to basically submit a photometric plan or lighting plan. Then there's some special permits. So thinking of the Edgewood sports facility, that would be a special permit situation. any kind of like temporary lighting, goes over a whole process. So that's the gist of it. I mean, it basically just establishes some lighting standards, and then a process for review and enforcement. And then it just, when non-compliant lighting would have to be in compliance. So it's all draft, some things to work out. I think in particular to how lighting would be grandfathered in, who exactly is going to be doing reviews, some of that administrative stuff. But it does take a little bit from our neighbors, which I think is helpful, just from the perspective that, we're not asking developers to, do anything that the city of Madison or Middleton or whoever, isn't more or less doing. Now, I think there's a lot of things that we could change. There's some out there that are just as simple as all lights need to have dark sky compliance or fully shielded fixtures. But I think this should kind of set up some standards, so developers and designers know what's acceptable for lighting, and a process to review it by. So right now, I guess there isn't really any standard other than its lighting is supposed to be dark sky compliant. So yeah, if there's any questions or thoughts or feedback, would definitely love to hear it.
Yeah. So Ben, I'll have my comments to you this week. So we would discuss last week. So
Right.
Go ahead, Diane.
Why, Ben, you said that the Edgewood Sports Facility would be an exception. Why would that be an exception?
Not an exception. It would be a special permit. Because their lighting is just going to be so different than any other kind of lighting, like sports field lighting. I think that's going to be, it's so many more lumens than what you normally would have. The special permit basically requires them to it would have to be designed by a qualified lighting specialist. And
but it wouldn't be necessarily any different than we have at like McGaw Park for their ball diamonds, or McKee Farms Park, right? Or the soccer fields.
Well, they'd have to be fully shielded.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't know much about that type of high lumen, high intensity lighting. And that's why we would want a qualified lighting expert, providing that plan. But it would at least mandate full cutoff lighting. What else?
My other question is on applicability. You have a note that it came from Shorewood that, if property changes ownership, that the new owners have to bring it in compliance. Does that apply to residences also?
Right. So, I mean, the way that is currently written, I guess that would be subject to debate. It certainly seems that way. That's how it would be intended. I think that's going to be just removed completely.
Yeah. I would also, there's a section in there, and I'll email you about this, the 50%. I'm thinking that maybe that should be like 30%, but I'll email you those comments.
Yeah, so those are the things that we've got to work out, and continuing to work with planning staff and public works, and certainly the administrative kind of, I guess, suss it out and get something finalized.
Thanks for working on this.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Any other discussion? Any more questions for Ben? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next agenda item. Item 5B, the 2023 RCC annual event planning. And we kind of talked about this, and I think it seems like it's narrowed down now to having an e-bike event. Julian Matthew, I spoke with him at Will and Sprocket, the bicycle shop here in Fitchburg, and he's willing to help do the event. They have a trailer actually they can bring to event with like 15 to 20 different types of e-bikes. They actually travel around and do this. So he would be willing to be the main host for this event for us. So the key thing we need to let him know is where and when it can be done.
Are we coordinating this with the bike and ped committee?
That was a question I was going to ask Phil. So
I'm still working on that. There was some interest expressed at the February meeting when there was a little bit more of a general vague sense about what the event was going to be. I reached out again by email a couple weeks ago, and I think they are looking for a refresher at the April meeting. So I'll have to talk with them in April with a few more details, just to see if they're still interested. I think at least a couple individual members would be interested in participating. I don't know if the committee as a whole will, but I'll just have to find out in April.
Okay. Yeah, to me, it seems like I think the goal would be to discuss the pros and cons of e-bike, the different types of e-bikes out there, how they might be suitable for different people of different ages and skill sets. So, and that's what he would be showing and talking about. So, I mean, I just bought an e-bike from him, and we went for almost 30 minutes just going over a couple of features of the bike. So it's amazing all the things that he can share with us.
Any idea of when we would have this?
Well, I was looking at the calendar. I mean, to me, it seems like I'd like to see if we could do it in June on a Thursday evening, like June 8th. I don't know if, Chris, that sounds good to you, if you guys have talked about it, but that's kind of like a tentative date that I have on my calendar. I need to let him know, though. So
yeah.
I know Kim's pretty busy for the month of June. She said in her email today, so.
Yeah.
Thursday evening last year created some conflict with evening events at parks, right? Is that something we'll be able to avoid more easily this year? I don't remember if it was a space issue or a parking issue, either last year or some previous event. There was some event overlap with the park.
Last year went well. We had that at McGaw Park.
Okay. I thought I remembered.
I think what you're remembering, Phil, was like we thought we were in a shelter and we had to get into another space.
That was a scheduling thing with the shelter.
Okay. But yeah, just I know that Thursday evenings I think might be softball leagues, and so we would just want to make sure that
maybe we could do this at McKee Park. And just reserve, I mean, we could reserve the shelter now, right?
Possible. Yeah, I would say if a shelter can be reserved, that would definitely ensure that there's not going to be a scheduling issue. Just kind of, I'm thinking about shelters and about if parking lots are really full, because we pick 6:30 and that's when 8 different events are happening at the parking question.
Yeah.
So not a don't intend to rain on the parade, just something to consider as we think about specific timing and location.
Yeah, I like your idea of Diane McGee Farms. It's kind of in the middle central part of Fitchburg. So
maybe you could reach out to Scott Endel and Parks and see if they can, give you some insight into the park schedule. I don't know if you've done that before.
The bad event at McKee on a Thursday, and we didn't have any issue with parking.
Mm-hmm.
So who makes the reservation? Is that a city employee, or can anybody, a citizen, do it?
I think you can just go onto the city's website and request a reservation.
Okay. I mean, if everyone's agreeable with June 8th, I'll go ahead and make that reservation, see where we can go, focusing on McGee Farms.
I think that sounds good. I want to give maybe a little bit of context with our event planning. So, since we're kind of talking about RCC annual event planning, we are talking about other community outreach events, and we had talked about a March water event that was going to happen this Thursday. The problem being that just about every hydrogeologist in Madison is going to some conference. And so it wasn't I wasn't having a lot of success in finding speakers. I did find one person that was willing to do it But it really didn't kind of get kind of the coverage that, I would have wanted, and we would have been in a last minute planning zone on it. So we moved that ahead and reserved the library for that event will be May 18th.
May 18th.
So that is reserved. And I have 2 speakers confirmed. I have a gentleman who's like the head of the Water Resource Division with the DNR, Mr. Elmore, and then a gentleman at DHS, Department of Health Services. I'd also like to reach out. I have had some conversations with the Geological and Natural History Survey. And they had spoken to us previously. So my hope is to maybe have them kind of give like an overview on water and then kind of dive into the topic of PFAS in a little bit more detail, with 2 to 3 speakers, and then have those 2 or 3 speakers, be able to respond to questions that the community might have.
What time was that on the 18th, Chris?
So that'll be it'll probably be starting at 6 and going until 7 or 7:30. So
okay.
With our community outreach events, we've found a sweet spot in not making the events too long, but really being in that hour and 15 minutes to hour and a half kind of block is what we target for those events, to be respectful of people's schedules. But also it's a good allotment of time for people to stay engaged. You get beyond that and people start to wander. It's a lot of time to take in a lot of information. So, we found that that's a good, so I think the June 8th is enough of a separation, and, it sounds like you have a pretty good person to run that. And, I think that we just really need to market that event. There isn't too much in terms of planning that we would need to do in addition for that. We might try to track down some pizza for these events. So I am meeting with Kim and also Sharon Hanrahan, who serves on our community outreach subcommittee, on Wednesday of this week, and we'll be talking through those events. Ron, if you're interested and want to come to that meeting and talk a little bit about this event, I could forward you the Zoom invite and we could talk a little bit about what you might need. And then that will, help us, since a little bit more details on the e-bike event.
Sure.
That would really help kind of get us oriented. So it's pretty early on Wednesday morning. It's like 7 a.m. before work.
Okay. I can do that.
Well, okay.
Just a thought, Ron, on the scheduling. If we do that on June 8th, we will be like 3 weeks away from the closest Fitchburg Star. We've tried in the past to do a Fitchburg Star reminder pretty close to the event. Would you consider a week later?
Well, I'll be on vacation. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then
that's why I would shoot for that time period. Okay. I would like to attend the event.
Okay, we'll just have to. Well, and you should. Yeah. We'll just have to get a reminder in May, and then just do social media.
Okay.
We'll do social. Yeah, we can do social media. Yeah. We can do flyers. We can do the green e-news blast, so there's other outlets that we have to circulate, the events happening, but yeah, in general, we try to shoot for them like generally in the 15th to the 20th of the month is kind of in our sweet spot. That's right after a Fitchburg Star comes out. We have no scientific evidence as to how that works, but, it seems to, we've had good attendance at our events following that strategy. So it seems to at least help out on some level.
Okay, great.
Maybe we want to do the e-bike a little later, like maybe start so people have had dinner before they get there. I don't think he doesn't want people touching his bikes with food residue.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do the food for the water event, and maybe we'll think of maybe we'll just do some like raffle giveaways for the e-bike event. Something like
I think
or something like that.
He mentioned he would probably be able to provide some things for giveaways. So
wow, nice.
Yeah.
Hey Ron, can I just ask one clarifying question? If I'm going to bring this to the bike committee, what exactly are you looking for from the committee in terms of assistance?
I don't know, Chris. How do we work with other committees and
So really, I think we want to just tap into their network
Okay.
to promote the
Yeah.
event. I mean,
Okay.
we have the speaker lined up. Here's what we're going to talk about. We want to, promote
So-
and educate the community on e-bikes.
So yeah, what we could do there is so they meet every even numbered month, so that'll be in April and June. At each meeting, one of the agenda items that we cover is upcoming events related to biking in and around Fitchburg. So I can make sure that that's mentioned at both of the next two meetings. And June, if it's 8th, that'll be after the first bike committee meeting for that month.
Okay.
So the 6th would be the meeting. And so, either at April or June, I can just talk to the bike committee, and a representative from Bike Fitchburg usually calls in as well, just about letting their networks know about this. So if that's what you're looking for is outreach, we can definitely make that happen. I don't think we need to create a special agenda item for it for the committee. We'll just cover it with existing topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can help. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
know when we were talking about a possible bike tour of stormwater facilities, that was probably going to need a little bit more active involvement from the bike committee or from cycling members. But for something like this, I just wanted to check and see if you needed any kind of official partnership, or if it is really just outreach, which that'll be a really easy thing to do.
Okay.
I think it's pretty much that. I mean, there
Okay.
isn't going to be, there's one guy that's going to talk about e-bikes and educate us. So, with some other events, like we have teamed up with other subcommittees and helped to plan events. Like our tree diversity event was that way. And that was because we did some other components to that. So we had several meetings for that one before, but I just don't think that we need to do much more than hit their network.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And also, I think it's a courtesy, to them. We don't want to step on their toes. This is definitely their turn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I'll make sure that they're okay with that. I suspect they won't mind getting the good word about electric bikes out there.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
But I'll make sure.
Could you just repeat the date, time, and location, or tentative location of these events, just so I make sure I have them right for the council meeting tomorrow? Because I usually share those.
Yeah.
So for the e-bike, go ahead, Chris. You can do the groundwater one.
So the May 18th event is going to be on water quality in Fitchburg. We don't have an official name for the event yet. We'll work on that this week, but that's going to be at 6 o'clock at the library.
Okay.
So it'll be from roughly 6 to 7:30 on May 18th. That's a Thursday night.
And so the e-bike one, getting to know e-bikes could be the title. And then it'd be on June 8th, starting at probably, what do you think? 6 o'clock's okay, Diane, or 6:30?
Well, I was thinking if if we start at 6, we usually provide pizza, but if we're not going to do that, maybe 6:30, so people have a chance to get home and do their thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you could market it as an e-bike right for you.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I like that better. You gotta write that down.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you for the input on that. All right, let's move on to agenda item 4.5C, discuss the June Bring Your Own Bag event. Kim was going to talk about that a little bit, but I know Chris, she hasn't really followed up on anything, dates yet and times, or she hasn't found a sponsor yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, we'll have I'll bring that up at our meeting on Wednesday, and we'll come up with some action items in terms of seeing how the follow-ups go. But now that we have an event on the calendar, and a couple of events on the event in April, we have our waterway cleanups and the electronics recycling event. May, we have outreach event where we're gonna do the water quality, e-bikes in June. So I'm looking at July or August is probably when the Bring Your Own Bag event might happen. And so it's a little ways out there, but we want to spread these events out. We don't want to have them all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at July or August at this point for that event.
Or even, even into September, as long as we avoid a football, home football game.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Next item on the agenda, 5D, spring waterway cleanup and shred event planning. On Oh, so we've set Saturday, April 15th for the clean waterway cleanup from 9 to 11 a.m. And the cleanup locations are going to be at Dunce Marsh, Quarry Hill, Swan Creek, and Yarmouth Greenway. Do we have leaders for those different areas? I mean, I'm willing to be a leader again for Dunce Marsh, but kind of be nice to do it. I did it the last couple of years. Kind of be nice to go somewhere that's different this time. If somebody else wants to do Dunce Marsh.
I could do Dunn's Marsh.
Okay. What are you giving up?
I don't think I had anything.
Oh. I mean, Diane, you did what, Quarry Hill at was it, or Yarmouth?
No, Kim usually does Quarry Hill. I've done the Yarmouth Greenway, but I'm not sure that I'll be out of restrictions with my hand yet. So
okay.
what I will commit to do whenever I'm out of restrictions, I can do from the railroad. I'm not sure that's quite on your map, but the railroad trestle to the second bridge on that goes on the bike path. So if somebody else can do from McKee Road up to the second bridge during the waterway cleanup, that would be great. There's a lot of along PD and Yarmouth Greenway, that corner, there's usually a lot of stuff on the hillside, a lot of debris to clean up. So not just between there, so between that would be Yarmouth Greenway to the bike path, there's almost that whole area and down into the creek bed. But I won't be able to lead that.
I'll take that on. It'd be something different for me. So
it's really beautiful
Yeah.
that time of the year.
Yep, I can bird watch at the same time.
Yeah.
What about Swan Creek, Chris? I know you've been doing that.
Yeah, I'll take that one on again.
Okay.
We have built the brand on that, and the area represented on the map represents the areas that we try to cover. So
Okay.
we typically try to get 20 to 25 volunteers, and the maps are really good in the packet for kind of showing and being able to highlight areas that we want to do. I see some other people occasionally do the stretch of Cyene Road, where the Nine Springs waterway comes through.
Yeah.
I see people do that occasionally, but that gets a lot of litter on it. So, we'll try to hit that again if we have enough volunteers. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of space, but we have a lot of people. So I just want to have enough area that we can cover
Exactly.
and send people to. So I normally am just kind of dividing off different segments, and everybody does their thing, and we get a lot accomplished. So
Okay.
hoping we get another good turnout and a good weather day to do it.
Can we
Okay.
get these maps posted on Fitchburg's website and in their Facebook, on their Facebook site, so we can at least publicize where
Yeah, we can do that. And Ron, you got that Fitchburg Star handy?
Yeah.
Did they is it in the community calendar? It should be.
In the latest edition.
Yeah, and the shred event.
It
Good
would
job on
be
that,
great if we
Ben.
could. If we could do a Facebook event for any of these events hosted by the city, that I don't know if that's Lisa Sanford or who is responsible for
Yeah,
that.
Lisa. Yeah, I could.
Yeah, I mean, the community calendar just
Yeah,
goes up. to
we
March
usually-
28th.
We usually reach out to Lisa for that. Yep.
That would be great. Yeah, I don't think we've ever done that before. So
Yeah.
It's a nice
we've
way to
had
invite
people
people. Yeah, it's easy to
come
share
in from.
Facebook groups.
Mhm. That's a great idea.
Give me this page here, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this just goes up to March 28th, so.
Oh,
Can we get something put in there for that week? Or when's the star come out again next time?
usually around the 14th.
not a good day for the waterway cleanup. I think it's like the day before.
Yeah,
I mean,
But they could, I don't know how many people go to the Stars website, but they could certainly get it on there.
well, this one came out, March 10th, so.
It's possible. What we usually do is the city, sorry if I'm talking, I should have my video going. The city has a newsletter page in the Star, but usually that's for the first edition of each month. And so that's where the timing doesn't work out so well. If we got it in the first edition of April, I think we'd miss the cleanups, right?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know that
we
we've missed them. It's going to be right on them, you know.
right on. Okay, but it's just
Yeah.
not much. It's not much or any advance notice. So social media might be more effective, but at least for like the free getting notices in the city's newsletter page of the Star, we may have missed that one. I think we might have needed to do that in March.
well,
we still
I
have that
talked
then?
to Scott at the Star,
Oh yeah.
which is why I was surprised, but maybe they didn't publish it because it's April.
Hmm.
They told me they would.
Yeah, I don't know how that newsletter thing changes with the spring election. If
Is it-
there's spaces of premium, maybe.
Ben, has the city worked out the issue they had with the Star? Because I don't remember seeing a city page in this last issue.
No, they didn't, but I did get approval from city administrator that we could use, because we already had some money kind of earmarked for advertising in the Star. He was okay with advertising shred events and waterway cleanup in the Star. So we can do that. No, I had asked that they put the shred event and waterway cleanup in the calendar, but maybe since those are in April, they didn't.
That's probably why.
Mhm.
But we can still request it if it comes out on April
Yeah.
10th, you know.
Yeah.
that might work.
And I think we're gonna try to get this into like Nextdoor is a popular app nowadays that people, I guess, can keep track of the going-ons in their neighborhood. And then I think I'll probably just kind of send it out to some schools in case there's some interest there in the library.
In the past, we've requested that any children that attend, they have to be accompanied by a parent.
That makes sense, yeah.
And the parent has to sign the waiver. The child obviously can't do that.
Yeah, I tend to, if I have family show up, I tend to keep them off the roadways. I send them into like interior waterways in Swan Creek, just to make sure they're not doing alongside the road.
Mhm.
So, and then, this sounds like, more marketing, I know that the timing of the Star is a little bit off, but this is a little bit more marketing than we typically do. So I'm hopeful that we have more volunteers to help out at some of the other areas. And if we do, like, it's been helpful for me to have, several maps. And so then and I keep them year to year. But I'm able to just highlight off an area and make sure that they understand where they need to go. So, having a few extra maps. I mean, you don't need a ton of maps, but having some maps to be able to direct people on, just kind of getting everybody organized in your areas. It's kind of a big thing for Swan Creek because there's a lot of different waterways that people can go to. So I want to make sure that they're oriented, but in the other areas, it may be a little easier just to tell them, where to go and not need a map. But, if it helps out, I would say take some extra maps along with you.
Okay,
Since this will be our last meeting before the cleanup.
right.
So, do we want to talk about, where people, are people stopping at City Hall to pick up, the bags and the vests? How's that going to be done, Ben?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask Ben. Like Claudia always prepared. Last year we had like boxes, for each of the areas. We'd go by and pick them up. So are you guys going to be doing the same thing then? Providing the
Well,
gloves, bags?
We could, yeah, so we can either have volunteers come pick them up at City Hall, or I could drop them off at the location morning of.
Okay, yeah, I'll come by and pick mine up so I can have it ready in the morning.
Sure.
Certainly we can come by the week of, yeah.
Yeah.
You know that we need gloves and bags and vests.
Yep, you left it all nice and organized for me.
Oh, good.
Good. So just to get back on the location, Quarry Hill, that's Kim, right?
Yep.
She
Okay.
will probably lead that effort if she's around.
Okay,
But we should confirm with her.
okay.
When you post this, Ben, In the past, we've had other groups do cleanups, maybe not on this particular day, but sometime during April. So maybe include an invitation if another group wants to organize it, to contact you, and you can get them squared away with their supplies.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I know Public Works will pick up the bags of trash from whatever group that decides to do some cleanup. So the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And if we do get something posted on social media, it'd be great if you could give us a heads up, let us know so that we can share on various community groups and get the word out. It'd be great to have like a really huge audience here.
You got to get it on TikTok.
Don't do that.
One of the can have a teenage child that they can help us.
Ben, I do want to thank you for on the average, I guess the city's website, that they do mention the availability of an outdoor wheelchair for people who have accessible issues or mobility issues, that they can be available, and I'm willing to help with that part of it. So
Okay, great.
yeah.
Well, Ron, in the area that you'll be cleaning up, that wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. Well, these are these outdoor wheelchairs, they can almost go anywhere. People take them in the woods hunting.
You should check out the slope and
Okay.
it's.
No, they're pretty. These things they like tapes. So
There's a lot to get snagged on.
okay, I'll check it out beforehand.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it. We can move on to the next agenda item, the review of the Fitchburg Star. I don't know if everybody's seen the latest.
Not
I
quite
caught
yet.
my attention. I go,
We have to talk
RCC
about.
sustain yourself. I go, what is that about?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I
didn't
it
put
has
that
no
in there.
mention about RCC or anything in it.
Well, it's
I thought Phil might slipping something in here on sustainability, but
I'm sorry, Ron. I thought I copied you on that. Chris offered to have somebody. We have to back up to talk about the shred event, but since you brought this up,
oh
Chris
yeah,
offered to have somebody write an article, which you saw, and he offered that shortly after our last meeting. And I said, I don't know if we can have an article because of the election, and we weren't planning on having an article. So I contacted Scott, who, if you've read the Star, he's been
Right.
promoted to the editor. And his comment was, RCC columns are going to get first priority. So definitely send it. So first of all, I think that's so refreshing. And you saw all the letters to the editor, and still we got an article in.
Yeah.
It wasn't written by us, but it was coordinated at great effort by Chris. So thank you, Chris, for doing that.
yeah, I wrote most of the article.
Oh, did you?
Well,
Nice job. You didn't get author's credit.
on the fitness goals.
yeah, well, I mean, it's we thought that we could do sustaining ourselves. I mean, we've done articles on that before,
Yeah.
and so they were willing to write the article. They wrote the content, and I just had to kind of get it more in our format for the articles. We didn't have the RCC dot. I think that they were trying to show that was connected to RCC. So it was really supposed to be like a sustain yourself series.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that most people probably don't know what RCC means if they just saw that heading.
Well, maybe they'll ask.
Yeah, maybe they will.
I couldn't find a connection between RCC and what was in the written up per se. And
Sustaining
so I
yourself,
kept looking for
sustaining
it.
your exercise, your
Yeah.
health is important. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've written articles on that in the past. It
Yeah.
doesn't tie to environmental, but it is, taking care
Okay,
of
so it wasn't a
ourselves is-
slip up on their side then.
No,
What?
it was not.
Okay.
Sorry. And again, I thought I emailed you about Chris's offer, and I apologize if I didn't.
Oh, I'll check my emails. But okay, now I understand. But anyway, the typesetting on that article was horrible. I don't know if you read it.
Yeah, I
It's
did.
like it just chopped things in half, and it's like next sentence would be way over, or the paragraph
I noticed that.
would flow. Yeah. So that's why I thought it was a mistake, because the typesetting was all messed up.
I don't know if they've got somebody new doing it. I just know he said that our articles would have priority, and it was like, whoa, that's good to
Well,
hear.
yeah, that is good. So Diane, do you have anything else to say on about the next one coming up?
Don't we, I think we need to back up to the shred event, don't
Oh,
we?
yeah, that's
I
right.
just want to
right, sorry.
backtrack quick, mostly just
Yeah.
to see if we can secure any volunteers, or if anyone knows already that they'll be there to volunteer.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna be out of town, so I don't think I could help anyway, but I'm gonna be out of town.
What's the date of it again? The 22nd?
April 29th.
Oh, I think that's the Crazy Legs run. So
It is
unfortunately
Crazy
out.
Legs, but the only other date that was available for our vendors was even worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
I might be able to come for the beginning and kick off, but I'm,
Right.
maybe just that first hour of the electronics. I know that can be pretty wild.
Sure.
We have
Yeah,
had
I can definitely get
attendees,
for that.
we've had attendees in the past offer to help. So again, if you put something out on social media, mention that we're having this, and if they'd like to help, please
Mhm.
Yeah.
contact, whoever you
Um,
want to contact, Ben or Phil or whoever.
Sure.
Ron, you've done paper shredding in the past. Would you want to just stick with that again?
Yeah, I'll stay with that.
Okay.
I mean, I could probably round up some couple of my neighbors because they expressed interest in helping out when they were dropping stuff off. So
Yeah, I think we could start with some of the usual suspects. So Gabriella, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to Alders, because we've gotten some good help from Julia and Randy and Jim at recent events. I'll check with Scott. He was really excited to be able to help with the spring one last year, and he was kind of bummed that he missed out on the fall event. But yeah, if we are still looking a little bit short, then we'll look into the possibility of bringing in neighbors as well.
okay.
I think that would be okay. I just want to make sure that it's okay to kind of send out a broad invite like that with the preference is people who are kind of already engaged with the city, I think, but we'll double check.
Actually, we've had neighbors help in the past. So hopefully that's not a problem.
Hope not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they would have to sign a waiver or something like that. So
Maybe with the electronics recycling. I again just want to cover my bases. Yeah. I mean, if they've done it in the past, it's not a problem because nothing happened. Nobody that would be the only concern is if somebody gets hurt doing it, we want to make sure that they're protected and the city's protected.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we should be having waivers signed on a regular basis. I don't know. This is something I'm thinking of for the first time, so I don't want to derail the conversation with it. I'll look into stuff on my end.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll start with RCC, with Alders. Josh, are you going to be available, or Will, even if you're not going to be on RCC anymore?
Yeah, count me in. You can kind of put me over.
Okay.
I've done both. I've done the shredding and the electronic side, so whatever.
Cool.
I'll be available
Yeah,
that day as well. So you
I'm
can,
gonna have to check availability. I think I should be able to make it, but I'm not 100% yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'll follow back up later this month to confirm eligibility, and then kind of the usual a week or two out, giving the final update, assignments, maps, just sort of final instructions and things like that.
Okay, great.
So yeah, that's all there. We can move forward again.
Okay, thanks for redirecting us back to that, Diane. Now we'll go back to you. So the Fitchburg articles, looks like the next one is Josh.
Yeah, Josh, you're up next, but since we're not meeting in April, I'd also like to two things. We need to have something in the Star, and maybe it's not an article, but some kind of an announcement about the PFAS the PFAS event in May. So that needs to be in the April issue, right? Chris, are you planning on putting something? Well, actually,
I think it would be in the May issue.
it could be a teaser in April and another
Yep.
one and follow up in May. I don't know if we want an article on PFAS to let people know the issue, or if we just want to write, if we want an article on something related to that. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I could pivot mine to just capturing kind of a high level thing about, I mean, clearly there's nothing I've seen necessarily suggests that there's something to report on in Fitchburg, nor do I feel like that's necessarily our role, but like, I could certainly cover it as a concept in April instead of what I was planning on.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally that article is going in because the event is on May 18th. So if we're going to do an article on water quality and high level on PFAS on the concept, you know, the ideal time for that to go in would be in the May Fitchburg Star, because that would be ideally like a week before the event on May 18th.
Well, is somebody willing to write that article? And if it's Josh, then we need something for April. I still can't type with my left hand, so I'm not going to hunt and peck an article out with my right hand.
I can try and muster up the next 2 months. I can cover that.
Well, let me tell you the other thoughts that we had for articles, in case anybody because we have several with no month assigned. Will was going to write on eco-anxiety, benefits of forest bathing, and spending time in nature. So I'm not sure if you'd still like to do that. Will, that might be a good April article. Ron is planning on writing feeding wild birds in your yard. That might also be a good April article. You're muted.
Ron, I think you're muted.
No, I'm open. Oh, yeah, I can do the April one for birds. Because that's a good time the birds are coming in, the spring migrants.
Okay.
So put me down for feeding wild birds in your yard.
Thank you, Ron. And thank you, Josh, for diverting a little bit or changing your topic a little bit. We can always come back to your topic, which I think is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy for it to coincide with that event, and I think I'll clearly touch on PFAS because I think that's the most relevant, but maybe I'll just kind of do a water quality overview a little bit there too. We're talking about, common contaminants. Nitrates is another one that we've talked about. So I'll do kind of a broad rundown to try and wet people's palates on the event for later in the month.
Sounds great. Perfect.
All right.
Okay. Also, just a note, I sent you guys all an email. I forgot to forward it to you. The Fitchburg Fire Department does a PFAS collection for their foam. There was a video produced by Fact TV. Anyway, I thought you should see it, and I forgot to forward it to you. So it's from a little while back, but I forwarded it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Diane?
Nope, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 6, Gabriella, council update.
Yes. So, one note from a couple meetings ago, the council approved a contract for engineering for Well 12 and Tower D, and that will be constructed sometime in a future year, not this year. I believe, Ben, if you know anything, just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going out to design. And I'd asked Tim Volker if we are adding solar panels or considering solar panels as part of the design, and he said that's going to be considered. So I will be following up on that, trying to make sure that we get solar panels on those going forward, since including it in the design up front is easier than putting it on the back end. And then the ARPA TID spending plan, that process is wrapping up tomorrow night with voting on amendments and adoption of the updated plan. I did want to note a couple of the things we talked about last time. So stormwater projects generally is included in the plan, and it's intentionally vague. So if there's something that we want to pursue with ARPA, I think it's our ARPA funding specifically is what we'd focus on. That I think the way the plan is written would accommodate that. So I didn't add any amendments there. And then I did look into the equity tree plantings, maybe doing like a public-private partnership. I don't think that would generally be supported by the council just because would be potentially an ongoing program. It's unclear, but I do want to keep pursuing that. And I think maybe sometime this year, look at see if we can propose it as part of the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. I do have a potential source of funding that we could do something like that, and kind of touch base with the tree advisory committee. So I will be looking into that, but I didn't include it as an amendment for this round. There aren't a lot of amendments. I only have one. It's to add so last year I added an amendment to put in community gravel beds, which is like a tree planting. I don't know if you recall this. It's a tree planting method. There's a little gravel bed. You plant bare root trees in the spring. You let them grow really good root beds, and you pull them out and you plant them in the fall. They're much more likely to survive. And then you can plant trees that we can't buy, balled and burlapped stacks that you can only buy them bare roots. So you can add the diversity of trees. It's an idea that Anna Healy brought up. I added that last year. It was unanimous approval by the council, and the mayor removed it. Not really clear why. So I added that back in. And then the other ones, in case you're curious, I think there's only one more that you guys might be particularly interested in. Hold on, just let me pull it up. The other one that you might be interested in is Alder Maldonado put in for funding for a refresh of the bicycle and pedestrian plan. I believe that was requested by the bike committee. Oh, I guess there is one more big one. So there was Alder Rutherford put in for add funding for the hub, the neighborhood hub on the North Fishhatchery Road, the park, for stormwater improvements. There's been some hiccups in the design of the project with stormwater, and working with the developer to create an area, the stormwater retention for the area. So that's also an amendment there, and something that might come up at a future meeting. Yeah, so 5 amendments total. That'll be tomorrow night. And I guess the last thing is that we did adopt a CIP schedule like we do annually for this year, but just, I guess I can just give you a sense of what the schedule will be, just because it is something that I know that you all are interested in on a regular basis. So if I can just share this real quick. So this is the schedule. So it looks like already departments are working on it. The draft is going to be submitted in mid-April, but we won't have any sort of public information until the CIP is proposed on June 9th. So, and then June through July is when we do the process of amendments and public hearings. But did want to get that on your radar because we did adopt the schedule. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Gabriella, two things. If RCC was going to submit anything for the CIP, we would have to do that today.
Oh, no. So right now it's with the staff members and through the departments.
Okay.
The time when committees and alders can weigh in would be after the proposal is public, and then we can look at amendments. Prior to then, I mean, we had that discussion. I know Ben covered it a little bit at one of the previous meetings about what they were working on in terms of requests. I know there's been a lot of discussion about adjusting the timeline because the CIP plan is a 10-year horizon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of projects coming up in the next few years that don't really seem like they're 100% feasible in that timeline. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about trying to spread those out a little bit more. But in terms of the role of the committee, the role of the alders, that comes after the proposal is public, posted to the website.
But we're not meeting again until May, and won't that be too late to submit anything?
No, the CIP won't be posted until June 9th.
Okay. So it would have to be done then via amendment to the CIP.
Yeah, the alders can submit an amendment. So
in the past, we were told, and this could be completely different with this administration, but we were told RCC should not be submitting amendments. We should be including it. We should be submitting our request to the department for the department to include in their request.
Yeah, generally speaking, I mean, if you, the committees don't have any authority to submit amendments, although obviously the alders are part of committees and can submit things on behalf of the committees. Okay. Although ultimately it's at the discretion of the alders. But you'll see, I mean, these aren't things, unlike the budget. I mean, you're dealing with big capital improvement projects. So a lot of these projects are already in the CIP. It's just a matter of changing the time horizon or updating the amount of money. Because like a lot of these, we foresee these projects far in advance. So
Okay.
the CIP tends to be, the changes are never there's never too many projects being changed, especially in that first 5-year window. So I don't think anything you'll see will be a surprise to you. It'll be very similar in terms of the stormwater projects and the big infrastructure projects that are coming.
My other question is, what has anything happened? Are we going to see that tree preservation ordinance or yeah, is that coming back around?
I don't know when that's being referred out. I don't think. I'm just gonna make sure it's not in the. I haven't seen it as a referral yet. I do believe that it's pretty close to being put before the council. I believe we were going to discuss it at the committee of the whole last month, but that was the night of that really bad ice storm, and we ended up canceling the meeting.
Okay.
Because Fact TV, the staff, they have to be in the building to broadcast a meeting, even if everyone's on Zoom. So we canceled it, even though, technically we can, all of us can be online, but the staff have to be in. So we canceled it because of that storm. And so I haven't heard what the committee of the whole meeting is this month, but we might be discussing it then. I'm unclear because I don't think we've released the agenda yet. But yeah, I do believe it's pretty close to being final, and it will come before the council in the very near future.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Okay, let's move on to item number 7, staff and commissioner update. So Ben, solid waste.
We'll race through this. Not a whole lot on the solid waste front. Just working on the 2022 recycling grant annual report. So it's basically like an entitlement grant, I guess you would say, from the state, that each responsible unit or recycling unit is entitled to a certain amount of funding. So this is just the report that we put together for that. There's some more on the stormwater front. So we met with EPA staff early last week just to discuss the Goose Lake project and just kind of the scope for final design and permitting and what that's going to look like. So right now we're working with A2S. Again, that's the consultant that we did the feasibility study and I guess the schematic design phase, if you will, to put a scope together to complete final design. So we've got some meetings with the county since it's their land and the town of Verona. Hopefully we'll have a contract to finalize this soon. And then the idea is the project would coincide somewhat with the Fitchburg Road reconstruction project. So if that happens in 25, this project would maybe go winter of 24, 25. If the contractor wants to work on the frozen ground, which we suspect this will probably be a winter project. So working on that. The city's stormwater mural grant application was accepted. So there'll be a stormwater mural behind the inlet in the terrace at Research Park Drive, kind of near the Atomic Koi. I've also been reaching out to some schools for an art contest to wrap the new street sweeper, kind of like the other one was wrapped, looks really nice. And then we are working on finalizing a update to the stormwater and erosion control ordinance as well. So that relates to phosphorus requirements. So there'd be some phosphorus reduction requirements for any development within the Rock River TMDL. It also has some, I guess, just design standards for storm sewer, as far as, culverts have to be able to pass the 50-year event, that kind of stuff. So that one's, well, I'm learning that the ordinance making process isn't as easy as it seems. So I guess that's a good segue into the SALT ordinance. I think what it comes down to is just there's a lot of people that need to review the ordinance, and there's a lot on their plate. So I was just asked if this could wait until the upcoming mayoral election and then pick it back up, I guess. So
it's a staffing issue. It's a work problem.
Yeah, I see it as just being, I guess, on people's plates that they still wanted to, I think there's some, concerns about if it's going to take up a bunch of staff time, or the other thing I heard was there's nothing stopping us right now from sending out educational information to to residents if those kind of behaviors are noticed. So that's kind of what I've heard. I think it's still something we can continue to work on. But I guess for the time being, we'll just wait until the new mayor is elected. And then, so lighting ordinance, stormwater ordinance, it's a lot to review. Legal escrow review, there's economic development implications. So there's all those sorts of things, I guess, that need to get sussed out. So there's, I guess, a lot of other ordinances going through right now. So just gotta be patient.
Okay, so maybe we can put this on the May agenda.
Sure.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, Ben, I know, go ahead, Diane.
I was just going to ask if the RCC opening has been posted.
I had asked Lisa about that. I don't know if we typically post those.
Usually there's something on their previous administrations on the website. It'll say which committees have openings, but I thought we could also put it on Fitchburg's Facebook page.
Okay.
How else would people find out about it?
Yeah.
It's pretty inconsistently done, but in my opinion, I do think we should probably try doing social media pushes when there are openings. Although there are a lot of openings because the reappointments are coming and people's terms are up. So generally all committees are in need of most committees are in need of new people. So there should, I would hope that we can do some advertising just in general, but yeah.
Yeah, I've done the green e-news in the past. I can do that again, but it's it's certainly the type of folks that would be interested in the opening, but it's also a fairly limited distribution list. So it's not really getting wide reach around the city necessarily. Social media would be good. The city's website would be good.
Okay. Hey, Ben, one of the action items from last time was Ben to look into Lake Barney status and get relevant information back to RCC. Any update?
Yeah, so I was able to speak with Jeff Rao, who is the director of public works for the Village of Oregon. Maybe I'd previously mentioned this, but so the drainage channel there's basically two drainage channels that would have to be constructed. One from pond or from Lake Barney to Netherwood Road, and then the other one is from the other side of Netherwood Road to Badfish Creek. So right now, there's no drainage channel at those two locations. The channel south of Netherwood would be in the Lerner Conservation Park. And I guess there was some, I guess it wasn't very popular. There was some pushback on social media. Not quite sure why. I know there were also some permitting challenges with getting that done. And then the other proposed channel on the north side of Netherwood is through Alpine Dairy property, and I believe they did not want to get a wetland, so they did like a desktop wetland delineation to see where the suspected wetlands would be, but that doesn't count as a real wetland delineation by an assured wetland delineator. And I think the owners of that Alpine Dairy don't want a wetland delineation on their property, or didn't at the time. Maybe they will now that it's dried out, just due to the implications that it could have for development later. But Jeff did say that he is hopeful that they can pick it back up and work towards a solution with the DNR for the southern portion, and with the property owners, the Alpine Dairy, for that north portion. Now, at the same time, it has been a little bit out of sight, out of mind, just because, and if you go, and it's quite impressive. If you look at the aerial imagery from 2020 to 2022, you'll notice that the lake has shrunk substantially in area. So there's, again, out of sight, out of mind, but it is still a project that they're looking to pick back up and get going again. At which point, once it looks like they have a solution to the south, we'll start working on some final design.
But you're not hearing complaints from Fitchburg residents anymore?
No.
No. Okay.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ben. All right, Phil, sustainability.
I was going to joke that it's pretty thin this week, but I won't waste your time with that crack. There's a lot to go over here. Ben and Brad Fittler and I completed sustainability plan bidder interviews today. We had some really good proposals and conversations, so we've got a tough decision to make, but we're trying to make that decision in the next couple of days because we want to start the internal processes and let our chosen bidder know by early next week so we can get into negotiations and contracting, and then the real work begins. Already talked about no mow May and promoting native planting, so that update at least is covered. Still working. Sure.
Phil, before you, how many responses did you get?
We got 5.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, we had quite a few more people on the website that downloaded the plan, so I really wasn't sure how many of them were just checking it out and not intending to bid. Like, were we going to get 2? Were we going to get 12? 5 is a really good number. I was really happy with that. And we got a good selection to choose from. The annual energy report, still working on that. I put some notes in the staff update, but the short version is I had some tentative numbers that still needed updates, and as those have gotten finalized, I've been kind of narrowing down the final percentages of everything, usage numbers. I finally discovered something that Madison Gas and Electric changed how they did their data export that I used to populate all my energy reports like a year and a half ago. And I didn't catch until a couple months back that we have a lot of individually metered streetlights. And then we also have a whole bulk of streetlights that we just pay as one chunk to MG&E that they're managing. They're all lumped together as like 5520 Lacey Road streetlights. So not all associated with the Civic campus, but they just have that address because it's all in both. They changed how that was categorized, and so I wasn't including that in the lump sum of our electricity total. So our usage is a little bit different than what I presented at the last meeting. It's a little bit higher because I actually have those streetlights incorporated now, where they had kind of disappeared in the middle of 2021. So some things like that are moving around. We're still in a really good place. We're still at, right around 40% of our electricity last year was renewable. We're still above the 25% electricity and fleet for renewable. So still really good numbers, but just kind of getting that fine tuned. I won't get the total renewable grid numbers from MG&E and Alliant until May or June of this year. So this is going to be a work in progress for a while. I think this was always the case previously when we were working through innovative business engineering as well, that the final energy report for the previous year wasn't done until like July or August. And some of it is just because a lot of this stuff that you're really working through the year to figure out what actually was the case the previous year. But that's still ongoing. Something that is also impacting it is we're continuing to have issues with the rooftop solar panels and just trying to work with Arch Electric and the manufacturer to get that all resolved. It's a headache. We were kind of in an unlucky group that we got inverters from a manufacturer that has some difficulties with operating in the US. And so we're trying to figure out how to resolve that when an inverter needs to be warranted, but getting some good support from Arch Electric and hoping we can get that resolved sooner than later, because we definitely lost some solar production from our rooftops over the last 8 months or so. Next one after all this will be the green tier legacy communities, because we updated that reporting process, and I thought it was silly at first, and now I'm really grateful that they aren't requiring those reports to be done until June 1st this year. Normally it would be March or April 1st, and there's not a chance that I could have had that done. But by June 1st, that report will be due, and I'll get to show off our shiny new reporting template and how it can't really be compared to the previous way we've done it. So that year over year comparison kind of starts fresh with 2022. But I really like the new process. It's much more robust, and I feel like it's grounded in better quantitative analysis and not so much arbitrary categorization and scoring. So that'll be really nice. Finally, this week, B-Cycle is going to start putting out their bikes throughout their Madison area docks. And for the first time, that's going to include some docks in Fitchburg, because Fitchburg is now going to be part of the B-Cycle program. That's exciting as well. We have 6 locations. We're looking for a 7th, just because a site fell through that are going to be part of the initial phase 1 installation. We're going to have 55 or 56 docks around the city of Fitchburg. There are a couple of sites, Terra Vesta and the Limerick Senior Apartments, already have their docks placed, I believe. We're working on McKee Farms Park. We're going to have the Agora and Oak Bank, kind of right by the multi-use path along the south edge of McKee. The Wyndham Hotel at Hatchery Hill. So we have some site plan review that still needs to be done for a couple of those spots, and so the docks are going to be a little bit slower getting out there. But this Wednesday, beautiful biking weather, I'm sure, we'll get those e-bikes out for the first time in Fitchburg and get to start sending out press releases and plan a ribbon cutting event for when maybe it's even nicer biking weather and folks with cameras and microphones actually want to stand out there and listen to people talk about it. But we're getting B-Cycle. And then hopefully later this summer, once phase 1 is established, we're seeing good data and usage. We're going to start working quickly on the phase 2 expansion that's funded 80% by a DOT grant. We're really going to see this blow up throughout Fitchburg, and hopefully see a ton of these e-bikes helping people use internal combustion engine free transportation to get around our little suburban community. So
Great.
just
Wow,
a couple
that's
things
great.
this month.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from the staff? Okay, next on the agenda item is activities being conducted or monitored by commissioners, and we only got a few minutes left here. I'd like to thank Will for his contribution to RCC over the last 3 years.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you, Will, and you're always welcome to come back.
He told me he'd be willing to write articles and help at events.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll still be around, so I'll
Okay,
see
well, we'll keep you updated, particularly on the event thing side of it. So, but yeah, thank you for everything that you've done on the commission.
Thanks, Will.
Much appreciated.
Thanks, Will.
Also, as I feel mentioned, or Ben mentioned, that my term ends in April. I put in, Lisa asked if I would be interested in re-volunteering, and I said yes. So, but that's dependent on if the mayor approves it or not. So I can either be here or not be here, according to he or she, the next mayor is going to be. So hopefully they'll approve the recommendations. So also I mentioned last time, that I would be interested in, if anyone's interested in would like to be the chairman of the next session, next term. So if there's an interest, let me know. I think I've reached out to a couple of people already, but if there is not an interest, I'd be willing to continue on. So if you'll
And we'll have some time to think about that too, because I think the official process would be that we start the next meeting with nominations and a vote for a chair.
Okay.
And then we'd continue the meeting with that individual running it as the chair for the first time.
So how does that work then? Does someone have to submit their name for a nomination then? Who's it?
No, I mean, I don't think it's that formal. I think just we do verbal nominations at that meeting, and you can self-nominate or approve or decline if somebody nominates you.
Okay,
So Ron, you will be doing the agenda, and then the first item of the first order of business will be
okay,
here.
Yep. Yeah, and so that eases the burden of you don't have to spend your time between meetings doing any kind of like, whipping a vote or gauging interest. People can think about it and kind of come to the May meeting ready to think about whether they'd be interested or not.
okay. Anything else? I think that's all I had. I did think about when we're talking today about the native gardens and stuff, that actually might be a good bike tour to visit, native gardens that people have in front of their homes. I mean, I have a pretty extensive native garden, native prairie in front of my home that I'd be willing to show and demonstrate and talk about how I was able to bring it to where it's at. Particularly if you have it like in the summertime when all the pollinators are out.
That could be a fun follow-up to the native landscaping talk last summer.
Yeah. It'd be a nice bike tour.
It would be a little more challenging in terms of reaching out to individuals and asking if they'd be interested. But if people know folks who have native landscapes, and certainly there are prairie plantings around the city that we could visit as well.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I'll think about that. See if I can fit it into what's sure to be a packed summer.
Okay. Well, it's 9:02 and I don't want to keep you any longer.
Good job, Will.
Yeah. Thank
Kept
you.
us on schedule.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
we'll see you at the events in April and then the next meeting in May.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, everyone.